Welcome to the Benning Report. Coming up in this edition, the 3rd Brigade welcomes home some of their own.
And a new type of robotic target.
Later, Couture returns to Fort Benning. Welcome to the Benning Report. I'm Sarah Tate.
And I'm Nate Snook with the Fort Benning Public Affairs Office. Thanks for watching.
WHINSEC said goodbye to their former Commandant and welcomed a new one. Melissa Bell brings us a ceremony that marked this official occasion.
The Western Hemisphere Institute for Security Cooperation welcomed its 5th Commandant in front of Bradley Hall on the new WHINSEC campus as Colonel Glenn Huber relinquished command to Colonel Keith Anthony.
It's really great to be back. I was here 10 years ago as a CGSE student as well as a tactics instructor, and I've seen some major improvements, and which is ultimately what transformation and leading change is all about.
Fort Benning's former commanding general, Lieutenant General Robert Brown, hosted the event that passed the Institute's colors to its new Commandant.
The new team coming in, Keith Anthony, just tremendous officer, very broadened experience, and I know he's going to do fantastic. It's always great to take over an organization that's doing so well, and then you just take them to that next level.
Colonel Anthony comes to Fort Benning as a former commander of the U.S. military group in Nicaragua. Anthony will take over WHINSEC command as this unit works together in joint, interagency, multi-governmental, and multinational cooperation, as well as being a key component across Fort Benning.
They're integrated with the Maneuver Captain's Career Course. They're integrated with the NCO courses. They're at this fantastic facility, and so they're a key part of the Benning team. And so that's they're going to continue to do fantastic and set the standard for the whole military. And I'm honored to just be a part of it.
WHINSEC opened its doors in 2001 and has trained nearly 18,000 students who represent 36 different countries. It continues to enhance professional capabilities and creates more effective partnerships across the Americas. Melissa Bell, Fort Benning TV.
It's always a welcome sight for family members when troops are welcomed home after a long deployment. The 497th Movement Control Team arrived at Freedom Hall after 9 months of working on one of the largest operations in military history.
Friends and family welcomed home the 497th Movement Control Team of the 3rd Armored Brigade Combat Team in a ceremony at Freedom Hall. The 497th has been deployed to Afghanistan for the last 9 months on a mission of retrograde. After 12 years of war, a large amount of supplies and equipment have built up, and it was up to these soldiers to get all of it home. Their mission was one of the biggest operations in military history.
They processed actually about 70,000 trucks full of supplies and equipment leaving Afghanistan. An enormous effort for such a small team, 18 soldiers.
The months of thankless work processing orders, managing personnel contracts, and Afghani trucking companies were all forgotten this day at Freedom Hall by the open arms and welcomed smiles of their loved ones.
I actually had more family here this time because I'm from the Columbus area, so my grandmother actually got a chance to see me come home this time, so it was just a really joyous moment to know that I had a big, large impact on my family to be with me today.
After a brief period of reintegration, the soldiers of the 497th will enjoy some well-deserved block leave. David Wright, Fort Benning TV.
Trench collapse is a real threat anywhere digging is taking place. In a partnership with Columbus, the Fort Benning Fire Department has begun certifying their first responders in trench rescue operations.
The Fort Benning Fire Department has been undergoing joint training with the Columbus Fire Department to be certified for trench rescue. Trenches are common on job sites, and the ability to respond to these types of emergencies is critical. In a tragic reminder of the hazards involved, Columbus experienced a pair of fatalities related to trench collapse earlier this year.
Well, there's always a risk of trench collapse. Anytime you have construction, we've had a lot of construction on Fort Benning, and historically, Columbus's trench collapse team would have provided rescue for us. We're trying to get some of our people trained where we can assist them as well.
OSHA requires certain procedures to be observed with trenches of a minimum depth of 4 feet. This involves a painstaking process of inserting reinforcing panels designed to add stability to the trench walls. These are held in place by heavy pneumatic struts. It's work that can take hours and, with time critical in any rescue situation, by working together, Fort Benning and Columbus look to increase response and rescue time. Between personnel turnover and the need for annual recertification, this type of training is an ongoing concern for both Fort Benning and Columbus.
Basically, the partnership with Fort Benning, it basically helps us be able to know who our neighbors help us out in case we need them, or vice versa.
The plan calls for Fort Benning and Columbus to be able to pool resources and perform joint technical rescues. Due to the small size of Fort Benning's fire department and the need to keep personnel available to respond to other emergencies, they will not be able to undertake trench rescue alone. But by earning certification, they will be able to prep the area before Columbus arrives and then continue to assist.
We'll go out there and we'll do the best that we can, but we're going to need assistance because we don't have the manpower or the equipment. So having extra people to pool from and combining the teams gives resources for an extended period of time.
Chief Pagel says Columbus is also home to the regional FEMA response team, and so responders must remain trained to the federal standard as well. David Wright, Fort Benning TV.
Coming up next, instructors who train the elite of the elite.
Rangers are the most elite soldiers in the Army, capable of excelling in a variety of difficult situations. Melissa Bell takes a look at the Ranger instructors who teach these soldiers to be the best of the best.
Let's go, Ranger, hurry up!
Whether it's leading by example or allowing students to make their own decisions, Ranger School puts forth some of the most elite soldiers in the Army, thanks to its training and the Ranger instructors who are there to see it through.
You're going to place your hands on your chest and utilize the heels of your feet to pull yourself down.
To have a Ranger tab, to me it means that you're a professional, that you want to be a leader in the Army, that you want people to recognize that you came through a school and that you wanted to do your job to the best of your ability.
Fireman Gary, what are you doing? Do you have any friends?
That's the RI's job, is to notice what it takes to be a good Ranger and walk through the woods when you're cold and tired and hungry and still lead men who are just the same as you.
Sergeant! Yes, Sergeant! Yes, Sergeant!
Ranger instructors are hard on these students, and they're hard for a reason. There are no second chances in combat, and soldiers returning to the force as a Ranger need to display all the capabilities that will be expected from them.
Your unit will look at you differently than they did before you had that tab. And they really don't understand that, but it's really not about the tab, it's about the expectations that come with the tab. To whom much is given, much is expected. And I tell them all that for the rest of their career, and really for the rest of their life, they've joined a brotherhood of the Rangers that have gone before them, and they are expected to demonstrate proficiency in all the Ranger standards above and beyond what anyone else can provide.
Let's go, Ranger. Stay off the wall. Do not touch the wall. Do not touch it. Get away from the wall.
All instructors at Ranger School are Rangers themselves. They have gone through this school, endured the suck, and have been certified to teach its principles and maintain its consistency.
At my level, that's all I care about. If the individuals are trained to standard, then that's what's most important, because once they get to their unit, everybody's going to be looking at them to be the subject matter expert, and to have that knowledge base, and to have that professionalism, and to have that strength, both mentally and physically.
While teaching techniques can differ, doctrine remains the same, and instructors must be exact in everything they do as they lead by example.
These students, they look up to you, and they can tell if you know what you're talking about. So yeah, we are the subject matter expert here, and we got to make sure that we know our job. That's why it's part of the certification process.
Get a little closer, Ranger. As you're looking from the shoulder down to the hip. Roger.
Instructors know that what students learn here can save lives downrange. Not only what they learn about Ranger tactics, but also what they learn about themselves.
I always tell Rangers what they learn about themselves in this course is probably more valuable about what they learn about Rangering.
It tells them what they can do under extreme conditions and what they can do in the future. As Ranger instructors prepare these soldiers for combat, they want to see success. Every Ranger sent back to the force will be one more Ranger ready and willing to step up and lead the way. Melissa Bell, Fort Benning TV.
A new type of target is being evaluated by Army leadership that will make training more realistic than ever. Melissa Bell gives us a look at what the future of Army training could include.
One right, one right, one right.
Fort Benning leadership had the opportunity to see a new type of target in action as the robotic human-type target was evaluated for possible inclusion in Army training.
A robotic human-type target is a live-fire capable autonomous robot that you can use for marksmanship and also enhance it's a tool for the Army learning model and 21st Soldier Century competencies.
Unlike current targets, these robots have more characteristics of an actual human, like their appearance and maneuverability, giving soldiers more realistic training than ever.
With this, you're actually engaging something that can change and move on the stop of the dime, change its speed, move faster, it can stop, turn around, so it's definitely, it can go behind a wall as opposed to having a timed thing where you know what you're going to be shooting and how fast it's going to be moving. This kind of adds an entirely new realism to it.
The way that movies are shot now is just on a track system, and you can pretty much play the game. You can play the course. You know where they're going to pop up, you know where they're going to end. When you put them out on a range and they can move on their own, A, you're reducing manpower to run it because they're all robotic, and B, it's more unpredictable and you can run different types of scenarios.
Scenarios for the GPS and Bluetooth capable targets can be either pre-programmed with respect to route, pace, and reaction to being hit, or they can even be set to random function. With ammunition capable of passing through these targets, soldiers are forced to consider collateral damage, adding realism to training.
This capability is a way to enhance the Army learning model. It's a way to visually mitigate risk by using a capability and being able to get guys to really think.
0.7 left.
We don't want soldiers to engage their first realistic moving target in combat.
As Fort Benning officials evaluate this capability for possible inclusion into sniper training, individual marksmanship, and live-fire doctrine, this new type of target is seen as a way to bridge the gap between home station preparation and downrange conditions.
Hit. Oh, he turned on you. 1.5 left.
The likelihood that they're going to have to engage a moving target is very high. So it really should be a fundamental skill. We just kind of have to bridge the gap between what we consider basic rifle marksmanship and moving target marksmanship with our appropriate weapon systems. And I think this is a type of capability that may be able to do that.
Melissa Bell, Fort Benning TV.
After the break, why some at Fort Benning celebrate ANZAC Day.
A good education is important in the world today. It teaches you what you need to know about a future job and sets you on a path to success. Nicole Randall takes us to the Fort Benning Education Fair.
You may think, being a soldier, you don't need an education, but you may not always be a soldier. If you want to get a job outside of the military, keep in mind that your service reinforces your commitment, but a degree solidifies your skills.
One of the biggest things about the military is that it teaches you how to be a good leader. It teaches you many different skills that are applicable to the civilian world. However, translating that to a civilian company or to a privatized company, it's not always that clear.
To help guide soldiers, retirees, and other dependents on the path to an education, the Education Center on Fort Benning recently invited over 30 schools and colleges to the main exchange to share their information and opportunities for the military.
Why is it important for anybody to go back to school? Let's talk about that. Education gets you places, so come out and get the information. You never know how close you are to an education. You never know what's out there, what's available. And with the whole gamut of the programs that we have available here, there's a lot to offer to the soldiers. So why not get an education?
Whether it's an associate's, bachelor's, or master's degree, an education is waiting for you. And if you're a soldier, it can be as easy as claiming your benefits and picking a school.
It is about being educated no matter if you're active duty or if you're a retiree or wherever your place in life is. Education is certainly a strong component to have as we go forth and do great things in the world.
And education is a must. If you want to stay in, get your education not only to expand your vocabulary, to expand your mindset, to expand your skills, but also, I mean, it will help you for promotions, especially with the way they're cutting down the forces these days. You need something to set you apart from your peers. A bachelor's degree now is the new high school diploma.
Choosing what you want to do with the rest of your life is the hardest part. But once you find that skill or art or industry that you're passionate about, the Education Center on Fort Benning is there to help you get started on your future. Nicole, Randall, Fort Benning TV.
April 25th is a day of remembrance for the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps. David Wright sheds light on why this day is so important.
They gathered before dawn, a day of remembrance for those who have fought before. On April 25, 1915, the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, ANZAC, fought at Gallipoli in Turkey during World War I.
Every 25th of April in Australia and New Zealand and around the world at memorials, we gather pre-dawn to coincide with the same time of the landings of the troops in 1915. So ANZAC Day is effectively the equivalent to America's Veterans Day and Memorial Day.
The holiday has expanded to honor all ANZAC soldiers, and it is traditional that Australians and New Zealanders pause and commemorate this day wherever they may be. For those posted at Fort Benning, they gather at the 173rd Airborne Brigade Memorial at the National Infantry Museum. Australia and New Zealand have never fought wars alone. In fact, they fought alongside the 173rd in both World War I and Vietnam. For this reason, this memorial is the only one that lists the names of ANZAC soldiers along with Americans.
Firstly, for the Australian contingent here, there's 5 families that are posted to Fort Benning. To have the Fort Benning community to come and support us on this day is incredibly moving, and we are greatly appreciative of it.
Ceremonies in which flowers are placed in honor of those who have come before are held at sunrise and are followed with a traditional Australian breakfast. But soon, the day gives way to picnics and games as families enjoy the day together.
Easy wicket here!
The day then transitions from one of commemoration into one of celebration, and it can be a little confusing for the uneducated observer.
Next year will mark the centennial anniversary of Gallipoli. Lieutenant Colonel Heatley says plans are already being made for a massive national celebration. David Wright, Fort Benning TV.
After the break, a UFC champion revisits his Army roots.
A mixed martial artist turned movie star is not a common sighting on Fort Benning, but the Post recently hosted one such sports and acting idol who actually came to visit his heroes.
Randy Couture, known for his mixed martial arts career and his acting roles in recent blockbuster hits, took time out of his busy schedule to pay a visit to his fellow battle buddies, because something you may not know about Couture is that he got started in the Army.
Having been here shortly after I served to train with the All-Army Wrestling Team when they were stationed here, I mean, the sniper school was very impressive, the Ranger Battalion, the combative sports gym here, all really cool stuff. Meeting some of the guys coming back from the war that have made some pretty significant sacrifices. You can't not want to help those guys if you can. And I can't think of any place I'd rather hang out, to be honest.
And hang out he did, visiting a number of areas on post, including sniper school and the combatives gym, where he found martial artists he could relate to and encourage, having received his training and confidence from his own time in uniform.
I developed a particular discipline and mindset wearing Army green that carried me down the road. They figured out pretty early on I could wrestle. Won the U.S. Army Europe Championship. Got a chance to try out for the All-Army Wrestling team. I think it was there that I learned I could compete at an international level. I learned and developed the confidence and the mindset to go out and win. And that carried me through 4 years of college at Oklahoma State and on into mixed martial arts and winning world championships as a fighter. So it all started with donning that uniform.
Cell phone pictures with soldiers throughout the day was a treat for Couture, but not because of the fame. While the young soldiers think of him as a hero, Couture respects the soldiers for their choice of career.
I was fortunate in the time that I was in the service that the only thing going on was the Cold War. There wasn't a whole lot happening. I never had to put it on the line. You know, I did all the training, I wore the uniform, I understand that commitment and that discipline, but I never had to go there. I never had to put it there. And so, you know, although I appreciate the sentiment and what that means to them, it's what they're doing that's really important and definitely doing the job.
Couture travels the world visiting soldiers to not only inspire their future goals, but to be inspired himself. Nicole, Randall, Fort Benning TV.
It's not your typical take your spouse to work day, adding a bit of anxiety and tons of chaos. I followed spouses of drill sergeants assigned to the 30th Adjutant General Battalion as they experience the first day of recruit entering basic training. It's a scene that plays out across basic training sites.
Get off the bus!
Recruits showing up for their first day in the U.S. Army. This mission is made possible by the men and women that don the drill sergeant hat. But today is different. As a bus pulls in, it's not full of new recruits, but spouses.
Welcome to 30th AG.
Here to see what drill sergeants do day in and day out.
Do you understand?
Yes, Drill Sergeant!
At this point, new recruits spill out with a newfound speed, but these recruits gracefully exit with a tad of excitement.
Woo!
After an attempted formation, they begin in processing. The 30th AG received and processed more than 33,000 soldiers into the Army last year alone.
Many of the people think soldiers just show up and start training immediately. They don't understand all the processes that go into a soldier coming into the Army with all the medical screening, uniforms and dental screening, etc.
The first stop is the barber. They have to get all that crazy hair. Some of them come with braids, long hair, curlies, crazy. So this is the first stop where they get their haircut so they can start looking like soldiers.
As civilians begin their process into soldiers, drill sergeants deal with long hours and time away from home.
They go through a tremendous lot of stress, and if you don't know what their day's like or what their process is in dealing with trainees or, you know, new recruits, then you can't relate to them.
This tour not only gave them an opportunity to be in the boots of a drill sergeant and see how their influence impacts the beginning of a young soldier's career, it helps strengthen their Army family.
It feels comfortable, yes.
It gives them a great appreciation for what our soldiers do. It also gives them a better understanding some of the hard work and the sacrifices that their soldiers actually endure on a daily basis.
Tighten the lines up.
Sarah Tate, Fort Benning TV. Boy, that really brings back some memories of basic training.
That's right, Sarah. I remember getting off the bus terrified for my life. But it's great the spouses get to see how hard drill sergeants really work.
I'm sure it's a tough job turning civilians into soldiers. Our hats off to all of our Fort Benning drill sergeants. And that will bring this edition of the Benning Report to an end.
But you can watch these stories and others on youtube.com/BenningTV or at benning.army.mil.
And you can also like us on Facebook.
From the Public Affairs Office, thanks for watching.